Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Adventures in Advising podcast. Matt and Ryan here, and a different type of episode. No special guest today, Ryan.
What? I think you're special, and I know people think of me as special sometimes too.
So we're the special guests today.
We're our own special guests.
And on this episode, Ryan and I want to talk to you about a new online academic advising magazine that we have put together, and that is called Academic Advising Quarterly, which we feel offers a middle ground, something that's maybe more polished and curated than a blog, but more readable and timely than a scholarly journal, wouldn't you say?
Well, not just accessible and timely, but like the vibe and the feel. Look, we've both been in academic advising for a long time, seen it done by lots of different people in lots of different settings, and there's so much room. But when it comes to reading about the work that we do, sometimes it starts to get a little stuffy and a little bit academic at times. And I certainly know that there's a need for that. Absolutely. But we're also interested in finding a way to connect people's stories and their ideas to the work that we do in ways that feel like advising. And a bit more what it's like to be in the room with advisors talking about that work.
Yeah, so it's filling a gap, I guess we could say. It's meeting a need for practitioner-centered content. So maybe content that's a little bit more engaging or inclusive or applicable to real-world challenges. Maybe elevating voices in advising, people's higher ed stories, and maybe the wonderful and true innovations going across the advising landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. And we started when we created the first issue and the sort of website that hosts it, thinking of the kinds of problem solving and connections that happen when you're in the room with advisors. And that's definitely a vibe that we want to establish with this too, that we're making sure that this lands. Oftentimes my head is in the cloud with ideas and concepts and theory and stuff, but we want to make sure that people really feel that there's a groundedness to the conversation that is comfortable and immediately recognizable.
Yeah, I mean, you were mentioning that sometimes some of the things that we read might be a little bit dry or academic heavy, terminology heavy. So I kind of think of this as something that's meant to be a little bit more digestible with the content.
Absolutely. I grew up reading Reader's Digest. I don't know who in my family or when we got this subscription. But, I could flip through it at any age and find something, find jokes, find an interesting story, sometimes a photographic, essay, that's one of the things that is sometimes missing these days in these digital formats is the serendipity of turning a page and finding something you didn't know you were looking for. And while it's still a digital publication and on a web page, there still is that feel to it with the platform and the tool that we're using. And that's absolutely one of the experiences I hope for with our readers is that they might see an article and be like, yeah, that's really great. That makes me think about something. And then they turn the page and they're like, I had never even known I was looking for that today.
Yeah, I think we can probably spotlight some of the first issue that came out. But I think before we get to that, maybe just kind of going over true origin style of how this really all came about. And actually from the podcast, really. So, have you ever met Ryan Brager?
I think once in one of the social situations or maybe a business meeting. I can't remember, but it definitely wasn't a formal introduction for sure.
So he's from St. Michael's College, or currently at St. Michael's College. So I got a chance to interview him back on the podcast in 2023. So that was episode 84, titled Guiding Students and Yourself in Finding Meaning. And like towards the end of that interview when we're recording, I asked him about a publication that he did at his previous institution with some of his colleagues, and that was called Black and Blue. And it was like an online flipbook magazine style for students that they created. And we didn't really have much time to really kind of chat and go in depth about it. but it was something that I was like, this seems very exciting. Maybe something to talk about more. So we actually had him back on in episode 95, titled Opening the Door to Publications. And like the title suggests, talk about the actual publication and specifically how Black and Blue started and why they created it, how it went, and all that good stuff. And it was just something where there was such an intrigue for it of like, is there anything out there for academic advising professionals? And so in transparency, we did submit a prospectus to an advising organization about maybe could this be developed into something? And let's just say that nothing came from that. But I think there's this movie, maybe Ryan, you might know it. It's with Tom Cruise, and Tom plays this character named Joel. And Joel's friend Miles tells Joel that sometimes in life you just have to say, what the heck?
Yep.
And what the heck gives you freedom, and freedom brings opportunity. And so essentially it was kind of like, well, if we haven't heard anything, could something still be created? And that's kind of how we got involved in, can we make something happen with this?
Yeah. And look, I appreciate that a lot of the things that are going to be pointed to as significant developments or meaningful contributions or whatever, there's so many elements and facets to how they actually came to be. And I always appreciate sort of getting to the root of things and knowing the why behind stuff. But I love that at the core of this idea is that just what the heck, let's do this. Like at the most romantic I can get about higher education, there is this time period where the faculty, the people teaching the students in colleges started to identify more with their discipline than the college they were teaching at or their eventual career goals. They started to say, this is what I want to devote my life to. And I'm going to build a core central identity around it. And that's just one of the things that I was like, we are academically free to pursue these lines of inquiry and to develop whatever they might lead us to develop. And that is both empowering and a little frightening at times too.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you too, when we were reaching out for potential submissions for this first issue of like, would anyone find interest in writing for this? Yes, we have the audience is supposed to be the broader professional readership. So practitioners, administrators, grad students, policymakers, pretty much anybody. But would we have people that would submit for it? I don't know if you had kind of got the same kind of vibe there with that.
Well, I, as people know, I always have ideas. And I'm always open to the idea that there's somebody out there who's like looking for the opportunity. And I was really excited to be a part of more opportunity being made available for sure. But yeah, there was a little bit of me. It was like, some people would be like, oh, what now? And why? And is that really how I need to spend my precious time and attention? But I'm so thrilled for everybody who's involved and even those who've reached out after we went public. And I know someone's listening to this right now and you're sitting there going, I don't know, maybe. I was like, the answer should be, why not? Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah. I mean, and if anything, if that person has read the first issue or if not, please go and do so. It shouldn't take that much time because that was also part of it, as we wanted something that it's a magazine, kind of go through it, read all these different authors, various types of topics, authors from various higher ed experiences and levels. So, I think it's a great opportunity to, really thank these authors on this inaugural issue, from Declan McLaughlin, Melinda Anderson, Sydney Momon, Matt Plesha, John Sauter, Kevin Thomas, Jing Yao, Wendy Schindler, and Anaya Player. I think I got everybody.
Sounds like it.
Maybe okay. If we missed you, sorry.
Wasn't personal.
Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think, again, part of me, I feel so fortunate to have been given so much in my experiences with academic advising. the people I've met along the way, the influence they've had on not only the way I think about the work that we do, but how I think of myself, and our world. But there's just so many people who have things to say, and it was really, really encouraging to see everybody step up and be courageous and willing to contribute to something that's never existed before.
I mean, I think if I had to like say one of them that stood out to me was Declan's. Probably on one hand because he talked about him creating a podcast, but how that, in a sense, also created an advising community and a podcast that he created with one of his colleagues. But I think also with his piece talking about professional identity, and I think that's something that a lot of us can relate to. So that's one that they all stood out to me, but if one more, it was that one.
Well, I mean, yeah, the amount of time that we've held them in our hands in whatever form or shape. But I really appreciate Melinda and Sydney's perspective, sort of leading us off talking about leadership at a time when it's hard to really feel confident with where our feet are. It was definitely something that I'm glad that we started with their voices in this process, because it sets a tone for the kind of real human perspective we're taking here, that we're remembering the people and centering around their experiences, and also being professional as we discuss, but also having some fun along the way too.
And I know we want this to continue. I mean, it's called Academic Advising Quarterly, so this is not a one-off, unless it becomes that, but it is something that we do want to put 4 issues out a year, and we are already starting on our second issue that will go out in February. Anything you don't want to share on how people can find this?
Well, aaqmagazine.com. Obviously Matt and I can be found in lots of ways, but we do have a page on the website where you can submit your ideas. And I know. In fact, at the time of this recording, I have in my inbox a rejection email from another publication. So I know the feeling of maybe this isn't me, maybe I shouldn't, but we're not taking that kind of triple blinded, highly scholarly approach to this review process. This is an open discussion. We want to help you, and we want to start that conversation. So some of you are thinking, yes, I know exactly what I want to say. Let's hear it. We are open to it. So again, visit aaqmagazine.com, click on contribute. We'd love to hear from you and what your ideas are. And we'd also love to see it in lots of different formats. It doesn't have to be a profile piece. It doesn't have to be an interview. It could be prose. It could be so many things. John Slaughter's art piece from the Pittsburgh Annual Conference art exhibition was intentionally included in our inaugural edition to say we're open to lots of formats. Photo essays, as I mentioned, so many ways that you can tell your story and have your voice be heard.
And also shout out to Dana Hebreyard and Thomas Shelley, who ended up being on the cover of the magazine. We didn't really share with them until like a week before we went live that, oh, by the way, we took this picture in Pittsburgh and we liked it, and it's going on the cover.
I know for a fact that anybody whose thought ever in their life is, I might be on the cover of a magazine someday. I want to talk with you, because when it happened, for our folks on the cover, I thought that must be so weird.
But we are here to build community, and I think hopefully this magazine does do that. I mean, the readership's for everybody. The authorship, in a sense, of these submissions can be from anybody. I mean, we want to feature advisors, students, faculty, administrators on all sorts of different topics. And yeah, and I guess, what do you want to say to end this?
Well, I think the main thing is that it's supposed to be fun, right? That's the whole goal, is that while we are telling stories and building community, we're also enjoying it. And there's lots of ways to enjoy this. And I hope that people feel that in intentional pursuit of joy, of finding a way to feel good about what we're doing, even when there are so many calls to feel otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, I've had fun working on this with you. Hopefully you've had fun as well.
Absolutely.
We look forward to seeing submissions and getting the February issue and many more out in the future.
Thanks, Matt.